Hello my fellow hammerheads and welcome to the first lore part of the Idoneth Deepkin. In this video we will cover the creation of this elven race and the events during the Age of Myth. Before we begin, I recommend that you buy and read the Battletome and the novels for yourself, because only this way we can support Games Workshop and the Black Library and the authors, and you can enjoy the unabridged stories for yourself. And I will add the faction specific terminology and my sources in the description box down below. And before I forget, I want to thank Joey for the virtual gift voucher, because only with her contribution I was able to buy the rest of the short stories. So thank you so much. Welcome, my friend. Welcome to the Hammerhead Inn. What do you desire of this humble merchant in front of you? You want knowledge? Well, you're in luck. In these uncertain times, knowledge is a rare thing. But you have come to the right place. I can give you what you desire. For the right price. So please, sit down and listen to my tale. I didn't believe my own eyes. I was just delivering some cabbages to this small fishing village as my horses suddenly dashed to the side and threw me off my carriage as they ran away. They abandoned me right there in the middle of nowhere. As I tried to stand up, it felt like I was submerged underwater. My movements were sluggish. My eyesight was not as clear as usual. As I trotted on, trying to reach the village, I saw them. Elongated beasts flying through the air, snatching screaming villagers up and tearing them apart with their fanged mouths. It was like the tales of old in which old fishermen indulged in the fantasies of sea monsters, pulling whole ships and their crew under the sea to feast on them. But this was real. It happened right before me. Luckily, they didn't see me. Otherwise, I would be a meal for those beasts as well. The worst part wasn't the beasts. It was the humanoid-shaped forms riding them. Shadows walking beside them and pulling screaming villagers out of their houses. Behind them, a figure lured them to its light and collected something ethereal. But like the ebb and tide of the sea itself, they vanished back into the darkness of the abyss. It took me long years to learn of them. Long years of waiting and watching. They only attack small villages near the shores, too small to attract unwanted attention. But they earned mine. Come, let me tell you of what I learned of them. But beware of these Idoneth Deepkin. When they want you, you will hear the sound of the sea wherever you might be, until they get you. It began even before these realms came to be. In the world that was, they call it. The elves worshipped a pantheon of gods, not the ones we have right now. But one of them, known as the Lord of the Depths, is Mathlaan. As the world that was torn apart and the Chaos Gods reveled in their victory, the Dark Prince Slaanesh feasted on the sweet elven souls. But Mathlaan had a great collection of souls, and he hid them in the deepest and darkest parts of the oceans. Every single elf who worshipped him was safe for the time being. Sadly, Slaanesh destroyed Mathlaan and devoured all souls. After the creation of the 8 mortal realms, several deities awoke and explored the 8 realms. The God King Sigmar found 4 of them, namely Tyrion, Taketh, Leiriu, and his mother Mallachi. These 4 elven gods were the very reason for the Idoneth to be created. As they found Slaanesh, they used Mallachi as bait and captured the Chaos God of Excess in a sub-realm known as Ulgish, a realm between Ulgu and Hysh. There, they trapped him with paradoxal chains and extracted the souls of the devoured aelves. The souls to be shared between the participants to be reshaped as they pleased. The first souls were received by the Archmage Taketh. These were the former worshippers of Mathlaan, as they were devoured last and it was easier to free them. In Hysh, the realm of light, Taketh wanted to remake the elves of old, noble and bright in spirit. In Leiriu, the city of reflection, he created the Cythai, or in our language, the awakened. He taught them of the days before the mortal realms, of the old elven pantheon, before Mallachi, Tyrion, Alariel, Mallachi, and himself. Taketh desired to revive the old elven pantheon with a new generation of worshippers, but nothing happened. The Cythai were different. They became extremely reclusive and grew resentful of Taketh. Finally, they fought amongst themselves. Taketh tried to peer into their souls to see what was wrong with them, and yet even his ability were not strong enough to see beyond the shadows which tarnished their souls. The Archmage wove spells to purify the possible contamination, but the Cythai reacted very badly to the spell, and some descended into madness. As Taketh's disappointment grew with every passing moment, he decided to start anew and to eradicate his mistake. The Cythai fled from Hysh and the City of Reflection, and scattered amongst the mortal realms and hid beneath the waves as the sea called to their souls. This was possible as they discovered the worldways, pathways connecting the other realms. But Tyrion, Taketh's twin brother and the Lord of Illumination, held his brother's hand in destroying the Cythai. And so the lives of these elves were spared and the seeds of the Idoneth Deepkin were planted. Did you know that the word Idoneth means extreme seclusion, but in a language as rich as the Elven one? It has many different meanings, depending on inflection. The root of the word Idoneth means desperate measure. The irony. But I digress. Their self-imposed isolation started to affect the Cythai, and different enclaves were formed. As elves formed and taught by Taketh, they were able to adapt their magical skills to allow them to live underwater, and thus their behavior adapted as well. The crushing depths gave them little light, so they had to shift their perception to the vibration and changes of pressure of the water. Some of them became adept in the art of seeing the flaring soul stuff of living beings. But all this did not prepare them for the future. They had to push their adaptability to further boundaries as they discovered a very unique condition of their souls which threatened their survival. As with every soul which was rescued from the belly of the beast, which is known as Slaanesh, they were marked and tainted. A few descended into a raging state of madness. The elves call it Mallachi. But the real flaw became apparent as the first newborns began to appear. Only 1 in 100 of their offspring survived their infancy. Physically perfect, these babies were afflicted with quickly withering souls, and they died shortly after birth. Elves are gifted with long lives, but even the Idoneth struggled for their survival, as they lost many members of their enclaves to the creatures indigenous to the seas, to the Mallachi, and their few surviving babies. A spark of hope was lit as some Idoneth learned to transfer a soul from one body to an afflicted child. The first trials included the transplantation of sea creature souls, but these energies held only for a few days at best. So, the idea to raid was born. They began to sink small boats and ships, but the demand for souls was high, and they had to raid coastal villages as well. 6 human souls are necessary to gift an elven child its life. Other souls would work equally well, of course, and the Idoneth experimented and perfected the techniques in finding and stealing the necessary souls. As they attracted more and more attention to these raids, they developed magic to wipe the mind of their surviving victims. Many of these survivors blamed the rise of chaos for their suffering. At first, these techniques were used for the survival of the Idoneth, as the ratio of inflicted to healthy souls did not change. Later, more spirit's essence were harvested to expand the enclaves, and to continue raiding the mortal realms. The time for seclusion and fear is come to an end. You might ask yourself why their magic of mind wiping does not work on me. That is a story for another day, my friend. So, what do you think about these Idoneth Deepkin? Are they real? Or are they just, like in the age of myth, a story? I'm keen to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you want to know more about these Idoneth Deepkin, just listen for the bell, and you will know that I'm here to tell you more about them. So please, my friend, have a nice day and stay fantastic. Bye bye.